Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's podcast and today's LinkedIn Live. It is a pleasure for me to have as my guest this week Amanda Miller Littlejohn. And let me tell you a little bit about Amanda. She's a pioneering voice in personal branding, executive coaching, and thought leadership. With over 15 years of experience working across journalism, public relations, and coaching. As the founder of Package Your Genius Academy, Amanda has guided countless professionals, particularly women and people of color, on their journey to amplify their brilliance and live authentically aligned lives. Through her proprietary coaching framework, Purposecaping, I like that, Amanda empowers high achievers to reclaim their time, set boundaries, and redefine success on their own terms. Her insights have been shared on platforms such as Forbes, The Washington Post, and NPR, where she explores themes of burnout, rest, and the societal pressures that push us to overwork. In her book, The Rest Revolution: How to Reclaim Your Rhythm and Conquer Burnout When Overworking Has Become the Norm, offers timely insights into the importance of rest, renewal, and resilience in today's fast paced world. And I leave the rest to Amanda to tell us a little bit more about herself if I did not get everything. So, welcome, Amanda. It is a pleasure to have you. I'm delighted that you accepted my invitation to be on this platform.
Thank you for having me, Daisy. I'm excited to chat and share with your audience and just really jump into this topic of the rest revolution.
Great. So, and did I cover everything?
I think you got it. You.
Okay. Okay, good, good, good.
Oh, I would also say that I am a mental health advocate and a mental health journalist. So I write about mental health and how things like burnout can impact the quality of our lives and our mental health.
Okay,
So
and
I'll throw that in.
that's very, very important,
Mhm.
especially at this time. So thanks
Yeah.
for that additional information. Okay. So let me start with the first question.
Okay.
And this is about the perfectionism trap.
Mm.
Many high achievers feel they need to over prepare and over deliver to be seen. How can professionals break free from this? How can professionals break free from this cycle and still feel confident in their contributions?
That's a big question, and I think the perfectionism and overworking connection really does feed into burnout because a lot of the high achievers I've encountered, whether through like corporate workshops or they were my own clients, feel that overproducing, over delivering, really overdoing it is really the only way. And I think when we interrogate those past examples of overworking, they can see how they work themselves up for no reason at all.
Mhm.
Whereas, preparing a 20-page deck when only one page was reviewed in the end. So I think in terms of breaking that cycle, it's going to be different for everyone because overworking looks different for everyone. Over preparing looks different for everyone. Perfectionism looks different. I think when it comes to perfectionism, really embracing the concept that I write about in the revolution that, you're a human being. And so by nature, you are not perfect. And so to
Right.
strive to be perfect is almost a fool's errand. And you're setting yourself up to overwork. But that's number
Mhm.
one. But number two, I think if you have been a person who has traditionally gone above and beyond. Not to say going above and beyond is not great. I think when we're passionate about the work that we do, it can feel really good to do more because it's just our natural strengths. But if you are trying to overcompensate maybe for an area that you don't feel as strong, you could potentially, get to the place where you do feel stronger, whether that's learning, taking a class, getting some more practice in, but also reviewing the past examples and instances of your overwork and saying, okay, when I did put in 20 pages, how many were reviewed? One. So was that a good use of my energy and time? And
Mhm.
really assessing your own patterns to see if it's working for you, because I think a lot of times it's just not.
Right. Oh, excellent. Yeah, and question number two, and so many of us, fall into this trap, and that's about setting boundaries without guilt.
Mhm.
Why do so many high achievers struggle with saying no? And what mindset shifts can help them set boundaries without feeling guilty?
Again, that's another one that it's different for everyone, but I think overall we've been socialized to, especially as women, we've been socialized to want to say yes, to want to please, to want to make things better. Um, and I think in addition to just like wanting to make things better, many people derive their sense of esteem from being able to do a lot,
Mhm.
being able to handle, to take on, to say, yes, I got it. I mean, I wrote about that in the book, how after the birth of my third child, I wanted nobody was putting pressure on me, but I put pressure on myself to seem invincible, to seem like this person who didn't need rest, who didn't have to take breaks, who didn't, who could operate like a machine basically. And I think a part of me really derived a sense of self-worth and satisfaction from
Mhm.
that, and from portraying this image of myself as someone who could work harder than most, could handle more than most, didn't need as much as, like I had
Yes,
a real attitude about that, like, look at me, I'm still getting it done.
exactly.
And I think yeah, it's a part of us being social. I think that personality trait, or that way of thinking, can be exploited by other people who it benefits them when you overwork and when you don't take care of yourself and set boundaries and you don't say no. So it's a lot
Mhm.
of things working against us. You got external forces that are
Mhm.
like, oh great, say yes, because when you say yes, it's better for me. You got
Yes.
the internal esteem that people are getting from saying yes and feeling needed and feeling like they're solving all the problems, etc. And then overall, we're just socialized that way. And so I
Mhm.
think, to your question of what do we do and how do we make a shift, it's just stepping back once again and saying, like, okay, I'm saying yes to all these people. Where am I saying yes to myself? And
Yes.
how can I make this more balanced where I'm also getting my needs met? You see a lot of people who are often saying yes to other people, but their own lives are in disarray. Their own health is in shambles. And yet they're rising to the occasion and saying yes to everyone else around them. And I think once you realize that that's the case, if that is the case with you, it's hard to look away from that without
Mhm.
doing something different.
Right. And what would you say it's hard to look away without doing something different? What would something different look like?
Well, I think for me, in the situation of being on maternity leave and having my middle child at the time, I don't even know if I wrote this in the book, but I was like, doing all this work, I'm so busy, but then I've got this baby, and then I'm so tired. And so
Yes.
Connor was like, "Well, why don't you take a break?" I think he was 12 at the time. And I said, well, I got all these things to do. I'm busy. The business is this, clients need me. And he was like, but Bean needs you. That's what we call my daughter. Like, Bean
Ye-
needs you.
Yes.
And it was such a Like, duh, your baby needs you. But it wasn't until my 12-year-old said that to me that I was like, oh, oh,
Yes.
oh.
Yes.
It was a reality check.
Mhm.
It was an interruption of machine mindset. Like, I was
Yes.
overworking on autopilot, and I had to have someone who could reach me, kind of break in with a message of sanity. And so I did slow down. I took some time. And I think once he said that to me, I really refocused. It just made me see how I was not failing her, because I don't
Mhm.
want to put that on myself, but how I was missing the moment, that really special moment, because I was trying to keep all of these other balls in the air. But like, her babyhood, her infancy was going to pass, and if I wasn't more present, I would miss it. And so I think, having someone who can mirror back to you where you are, and maybe, someone who cares about you, asking them like, how does my overworking, what toll is that taking on you? Like, is it impacting you? Like, what do you see differently? And then just figuring out how you can, again, cut back in the areas where you're overdoing it, and then add more time to the areas that are missing you in this moment. And
Mhm.
so that's going to be different for everyone. At the time, for me, that meant cutting back on some client stuff and getting more sleep, because I
Yes.
mean, it's already hard to get sleep with a newborn, but like, it had gotten out of control to the where I wasn't not getting sleep because of her. I was not getting sleep because I would get up with her. She'd go back to sleep, and then I would stay up and work.
And
I would
work.
use her almost as like an alarm clock. Like, oh, it's 3 a.m. Time to start
Yes.
the morning shift.
Yes. I know, eh? But you know what? I can relate to that
Mhm. Mhm.
because I remember just when my well some just one second. Somebody's on and I just want to show. Yeah. Yes. Janine is
Oh.
saying that's deep. Needing someone to teach me to provide a reality of focus. That's great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Yes. In many years ago when my I can relate because my son, when he was 5, he he said to me one Tuesday night I came home and he said, "Mom, did you come home last night?"
Mm,
And that hit me in the
mm,
stomach because again, I was working so hard at work and then going to school in the evenings. And when I came home, both kids were asleep,
sleep.
and guilt would hit me so badly that I would go into their room and wake them up and say, "Mommy's home." you know. But it, like you said, it took that gut punch to really realize, yeah, you have to set priorities and you have to set boundaries. So thank you so much for that. And so many of us would benefit from your experience. Now, having said that about boundaries and all of that, how do we reclaim our time? So here's a question. What are some small but impactful ways professionals can step away from overworking and create space for strategic career growth?
So I think that starts with what everything starts with for me, and that is like deep self communion and knowledge. So when I say communion, I mean spending uninterrupted, still time with yourself, as regularly as possible. And I think the small ways are best, because you want to figure out something that you can do every day, even if it's just 5 minutes. And I write about a few different, options for stillness practices, all free, right, in the book. So for me, I use journaling, breath work, sound baths, and if I have access to a forest trail, I'll walk a trail in nature. I love being specifically in forests.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that time, if you can carve out, start with 5 minutes if that's all you can stomach, and if that's all you feel like you can carve out, to breathe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just 5 minutes of breathing, and build from there in whatever modality you choose. Some people it's yoga, some people it's running, some people it's just sitting in silence. But what you'll start to notice is you begin to kind of grow this reserve of how do I describe it? It's like, if you see yourself, those dolls, the Russian dolls, where it's like the
Mm-hmm.
little doll and then there's another doll and another. It's like with each session, you grow another layer, another doll of like patience, of just calmness. It's like your nervous system is getting a reset. And when you start to grow those layers, you're able to hear yourself more clearly and more loudly. And so, you ask, like, what is something a person can do? That's the first thing I would do, because oftentimes when people are in burnout, they can't hear themselves at all. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
think about you as the mother working, 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 coming home at night. Your kid, you can't hear yourself, because if you were still in long enough to hear yourself would be saying, "Lady, you're working too much." Like,
Lady, take a break.
you never see your kids. Like, what's
Right.
wrong? Like, what's going on here? And so I think we get away, and that's why I write about machine mindset in the book. Overworking on autopilot, it creates this machine mindset where, like, that's all you know. You develop this muscle memory of overworking, and it requires you interrupting that. And one of the ways to do that is with a stillness practice that you build on every single day,
Mm-hmm.
to create that space for your nervous system, but to also create that space for you to commune with yourself. So when
Mm-hmm.
you're communing with yourself, you can hear yourself, you can start to kind of like get in touch or get back in touch with your needs, that your true desires, what you really need to be doing, that internal wisdom, that intuition that's been there for you to access all along. But because we get so busy and so worked up, working and overworking, and we mistreat our bodies and our nervous systems and our just systems in general, we mistreat ourselves so badly that it's like we're out of tune. And
Yeah.
so those stillness practices help bring you back in tune, so that you can hear yourself, and see your situation more clearly. And once
Mm-hmm.
you can see clearly, it's easier to make decisions about, oh, okay, this is crazy. I'm
Right.
doing too much. Or this, you know what? I really liked this field, but it's just not working for me. It's not working for my family. It's not working for my energy level. This is not working. Like, so many times things are just not working, and we hold on to them because we want to be successful. We want to win. We don't want to feel like we failed. But I think getting back to, okay, some time with myself so that I
Mm-hmm.
can hear myself again, then you'll be able to begin to hear some of those answers.
Right. And I like the fact that you say even 5 minutes,
Yeah.
because 5 minutes can do a
Nothing.
lot.
It can do a lot, and it's most, because I realize, like, sometimes when I tell people, and it changes with the seasons, right? Like, sometimes my stillness practices, I mean, there was a time when I would have 3 hours a day, like, journal, and then a 2 mile hike through the woods, and then journal again, and then sit and listen to whatever. And that's not realistic. That's not even realistic for me in this moment, in this time of
Mhm.
my life. But everyone can find, even if it's when you open your eyes before you get out of bed, you can spend 5 minutes breathing and tuning into yourself and setting an intention for your day and thinking about, like, how do I feel? How's my body? Checking in with your body. Is there any pain? Do I need to stretch? Like, what do I need? How
Mhm.
often do you ask yourself, what do you need? But you're always, running around trying to see about everyone else's needs. That's,
Exactly. And not
that's another
taking
book.
and not taking care of yourself.
Right.
Oh boy. Okay. Now my next question is about sustaining visibility.
Okay.
Sustainable visibility strategy. Many professions fear that self promotion is exhausting or inauthentic. How can they build visibility in their industry without feeling drained or constantly on?
Um, because this is what I do, in terms of personal branding and thought leadership coaching and strategy for people, I always, like to start with your strengths and what you naturally are able to do. What do you naturally enjoy? What do you naturally gravitate towards? I think any any way of promoting yourself that's not tied to your strengths is going to exhaust you. And so you have to find out what works for you and do that work. And only you know that. Like some people, writing might be their thing. Other people love showing up on camera and talking. Some people
Mm-hmm.
love to talk on a podcast. Some people are public speakers. Some people like, doing interviews like this. Some people just really come alive in person on a stage. So I think you have to really think about when you are at your best and when it's not a drain, but it's an energizer for you.
Exactly.
And then you lean into that. And it doesn't even have to be something that is traditionally thought of as personal branding. I have a friend and former client who um, swears by handwritten notes. She loves writing, notes to people. She loves, writing a birthday card, writing a little message in it, or just sending a note that you're not even expecting because it's not your birthday. You just
Mm-hmm.
go to the mailbox and here's this note from her. And she has told me that doing that, it's almost like a ministry, her handwritten note ministry. She just does it.
Mm-hmm.
She loves it, but it always sparks a conversation with someone on the other end who might say, what are you up to? Let me bring you in. We need you for this. It
Yes.
reminds people that you're there, and then you can start a conversation about what could be. But it's not that it's an intentional, okay, let me send this note to see what I can get out of it, but that is her way of keeping in touch with people. So I think you've got to see it both as external, like how am I being visible, but also how am I nurturing relationships. And I think too many people focus just on how am I being seen and how am I externally visible, and not just how am I growing new relationships, how am I nurturing new relationships, because that's the point of visibility, period.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a person who doesn't necessarily need to have this like huge public facing, following, but you have really strong ties with the people in your network, and you're steadily meeting new people and nurturing those new people, so that when the time comes for you to reach out for a new position or get a recommendation or get a referral for a client, you've got all of these people who are your champions and ambassadors. So I encourage people to think outside of the box. Being visible doesn't only look like being an Instagram or TikTok influencer.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different ways to go about it. And I think, you owe it to yourself to experiment and try to find the way that works best for you. And also know that your way of being visible may not look like somebody else's way of being visible. But if it's helping you get to the goals of having a network that can vouch for you or open doors for you or hire you, then isn't that the point?
Exactly. That's the point. But let me ask you this other question just to follow up on this one. Many people um, shy away from self promotion.
Mhm.
And I want to get your perspective on that. Just this self promotion. So the visibility piece is great. You covered that. But in terms of self promotion, what advice would you give to people who feel uncomfortable promoting themselves?
Advice would I give? I mean, I think first of all, like I'm the type of person where I'm like, I have to understand things before I can take anybody's advice. So
Right.
I'll start with that. You're not alone. It's normal. Like a lot of people feel uncomfortable. Again,
Mhm.
many cultures are socialized to not be self-promotional. It's
Yes.
rude to be self-promotional. And so I think especially if you're coming from a culture that sees speaking up and talking about yourself and tooting your own horn as obnoxious or rude, then you're going to have to reconcile that, within the context of your career or business goals. So it's one thing to not be self-promotional within your um your business, right? Or not be self-promotional in your family. But I think if you are trying to get ahead in your career or in your business, it's one of those things that you just have to do,
Mm-hmm.
unless you don't want to be known, unless you want
Right.
other people to take credit for your skill set and
Yes.
your I guess your accomplishments and your achievements and your contributions. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of those things that you have to make peace with. But advice for overcoming it, it's not always comfortable. And I think a lot of that is tied to, no one wants to feel rejected. No one wants to feel like they're putting themselves out there and it's not landing well or people don't like them. It's like you open yourself up to be judged. You open yourself up to be exposed when you promote yourself, because just kind of staying behind the scenes and staying invisible is safe.
Yes.
But if you have any goals that go beyond being safe in the background, self promotion is just simply a reality you have to embrace.
Exactly. And I usually say to my clients that if you have the evidence, then it's okay. It's okay to promote yourself because you have the proof.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, some people, when you don't promote yourself, when you don't toot your own horn, then somebody will take credit for your work, take
Yeah.
credit for your accomplishments, and this happens so often.
Oh, it does. And I think too, to your point, it's like going back to the question about saying no and boundaries. There are people who are kind of waiting in the wings to take advantage of people who they know won't say no. The same thing. There are people who are waiting in the wings to take credit for the work of the people who refuse to self promote and speak up and advocate for themselves.
Yeah,
And
yes,
so, you have to decide, like, which one do you want? Do you want to be someone who's just doing all the work and getting none of the credit and getting none of the advantages of your hard work?
exactly. I remember a couple of years ago I was coaching a lady,
Mm.
and she came to me and she said, Daisy, I have been doing all the work, and I looked at my manager's LinkedIn profile, and I saw she listed everything that I had done. So
Mm.
she said that was what really hit her. And she said, no, I cannot be here doing the work and somebody else is publicly getting the credit. So that's how she ended up coming to me. But you're right. If you're not promoting yourself, then somebody else is going to jump in and take credit for your work.
Well, did she end up changing her LinkedIn profile to add her accomplishments?
Well, we worked together to oh yes, because she had come to me because of that, and we worked together to get her stuff there. But it's and to claim her achievements and all of that. But my point is she was just there. She had her head down doing the work and everything, and wasn't being promoted or anything like that. And then when just by chance she was on LinkedIn, and then she realized, oh my goodness, there's my manager touting my own work. So it was just it was just a push she needed
Mm-hmm.
to get out of that kind of
A lot of people think that doing the work is the thing. Like,
Mhm.
if I just do the work, if I
Yeah.
put my head down and do great work, someone will discover me or find
Mhm.
me, or find me toiling, find me working hard,
Yes.
and they will do the right thing.
Mhm. No, it doesn't happen often. No, not at all. Okay, so here is a big one. And this one is about imposter syndrome and self advocacy. What advice do you have for those who struggle with imposter syndrome and hesitate to advocate for themselves in the workplace?
Um, I would say, again, getting to know yourself and really understanding the truth of your story. You know, just like that client that you just mentioned whose accomplishments were listed on someone else's LinkedIn profile. Maybe it's time for you to make a list of your accomplishments to see what is the truth here. I think
Mm-hmm.
imposter syndrome festers when we are not in touch with the true narrative of what we have done and what we've accomplished. And so examining your receipts, what have you actually done? And then
Mm-hmm.
when you kind of line those receipts up against this idea in your head of I am not good enough, or I am not this title, or I am not really the person that people think I am, and then you look at the accomplishments, does it match? Sometimes it might not, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe, if you really are if it's not imposter syndrome and it's just a case of, okay, I do need to do more, which often is not the case. Um, I think there are things you can do to get yourself in a position where you do feel more confident about your skills and your strengths. But if it's truly imposter syndrome where, you are in a position and doing great work and getting great results, but you don't feel it, then you've got to do a bit more of the legwork to um, impress upon yourself the truth of who you are and the truth of what you bring to the table. I think a lot of times we exist in spaces where gaslighting is rampant. And so, you know, giving the example of the person who believes that keeping your head down and doing great work is the answer and is the key. You have to understand that in most organizations, like, you know, the bottom line is let's get the most work out of people for the least amount of compensation. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've got a person who's willing to keep their head down and not demand more, then people are going to just keep extracting as much from you as possible, at least in our current system. And that's unfortunate, but that's really just the truth. And so back to gaslighting, in some cases, I have seen where people are doing extraordinary work and they are delivering extraordinary results. And the response on the other end is very lackluster. Um, there's not a sense of affirmation. People aren't affirming that they are doing good work. And so that can kind of set up a mind state where you're second guessing yourself and you're
Mm-hmm.
wondering if you're really good. But I think in those cases, just as if you were being, experiencing gaslighting in like your relationship, sometimes it's good to talk to a trusted source to get a real sense of, okay, a third party, like, okay, is it me?
Yes.
Like what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And then moving accordingly.
Great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And now we get to the part about the rest revolution framework.
Oh.
You talk about rest as a career growth strategy. Can you explain how prioritizing rest can lead to new opportunities and professional success?
So I kind of talked about it already when I was
Mhm.
talking about the stillness practices. So to me, rest is not just sleep. Rest is also, getting to a place where you can have access, more ready access to yourself. And I think whenever you're in that position after, investing in the stillness and spending time with you and being still and getting quiet and just hearing yourself, you're able to approach your career from a standpoint of clarity and a standpoint of truth
Mhm.
versus just the cloudedness of what the world is mirroring back to you, or pushing on you, or requesting of you, or wanting from you, because this is what benefits everyone else. And so purposescaping is the executive coaching philosophy and framework that I write about in the Rest
Mhm.
Revolution. And it's a seasonal framework that it mirrors the 4 seasons of winter, spring, summer, fall. And
Mhm.
it really asks you to examine any area of your life, but your career could certainly be a big area. And it's one that most people like to look at, to see what season are you in, and
Yes.
what does that season require, because seasons change. And I think, as you know, Daisy, we set off on these careers in our 20s and we have all these goals that we want to do, but so rarely do we stop and kind of pull over to the side of
Mm-hmm.
the road and reassess, like, are we still going where we want to be going? um am I still trying to apply a 20-year-old mindset and approach to a 40-year-old's resume? And I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes in. Like, am I thinking like I am 20 when really I'm 40 and I've got all of these things
Mm-hmm.
to speak for myself? And so um purposecaping just asks you to look at, like, okay, if I'm in the spring season, maybe I pivoted and got on a new path because I needed to change industries or I needed to change roles. Well, what does spring require? It's going to require me to be gentle with myself, to be delicate with my moves, and to try to plant something and nurture it until it takes root. And once it takes root, then it's all about growth and visibility and making sure, people know about it. But depending upon where you are in your career, what season you're in, that each season requires something different. And I think that we we repeatedly skip winter, which is one of the chapters in the book.
Mm-hmm.
We repeatedly skip that time for rest and reflection. And that's why so many of us don't have clarity about what we're supposed to be doing in any season.
You're right.
Hey, Janine.
Preach. I like that. Okay. So my next question, and you have covered some of this, but it's about how balancing excellence with well-being. And the question is, high achievers want to deliver excellent work, but at what point does striving for excellence become unsustainable? And how can they find a balance?
Well, um, again, the repeatedly skipping winter is the lack of sustainability. Like, that's where the unsustainability comes in, and I think that certain seasons are going to look like showing up and providing excellence, like summer and fall, right? Like, you're going, 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 you're reaping rewards, you're getting promotions, you're doing all the great things. And most people like that part, right? They like that part of the cycle. They like the part where they the footing is sure.
Mm-hmm.
Think about spring. Spring is so uncertain because you're like, I'm gonna plant this seed, but I don't know if it's gonna
It's
grow.
gonna grow.
Right. Like, I don't know. And I don't know if once it grows, it's going to thrive. And, like, does it like me? Does it like this little patch of dirt? Does it like where I've put it? I don't know. We've got to
Mhm.
see. We got to do some experimentation to see how this all pans out. But then once summer is here, what you have is what you have. And so it's a matter of really doubling down to grow this thing that has taken root. And then fall is about just reaping the rewards of tending to something that was healthy and that grew.
Mhm.
And I think most people, when it comes to a kind of a winter season of, okay, I picked a path, I picked a direction, I made some solid moves, I got some things growing, I obviously have evidence that what I grew did well. Maybe I got a promotion or I got an award of some sort. But now I need to take some time back and assess what's working, what's not working, and what I want to take with me into the next spring season. Like, what do I
Mhm.
want to plan again? What do I want to get rid of? What is something new I want to try? And I think that is that moment where so many people don't take the time to rest, decide, make decisions, reflect,
Mhm.
because it's uncomfortable and because the world does not validate you when you are silently making decisions in the background or assessing your life from a point of wisdom and trying to
Mhm.
see, like, what makes sense for me. Maybe you've been in this long season of parenting and now your role as a parent has shifted, and so
Yes.
you have more room or you have less room, right, for
Yes.
work, and you've got to make adjustments around how you're working. Most people, they really delay or deny themselves the opportunity to stop and reflect and make those key decisions that set themselves up. But my point is, we start our careers and we don't take into account that we are living beings that will grow and evolve, and things shift, things change, both
Mhm.
from a personal level, a professional level. Industries change, our
Yes.
family dynamics change. You might go from having nobody to take care of, people taking care of you, and then you taking care of people older than you and younger than you at the same time. Like, things change, and as they change, you have to adapt your approach
Mhm.
to how you move personally and professionally. And it takes some reflecting time and true honesty for you to kind of get to that. And so you asked about sustainability. I think that's where that lack of sustainability comes in, is that we're just repeatedly skipping winter. But winter is a necessary season. No season is wasted. And I say
Exactly.
that in the book. But we skip winter because it's not sexy, it's not fun, to be in the
Yeah, I
background.
read that part in the book.
Yeah. It's
It's
it's it's private.
yes.
And people want to be rewarded, they want to be praised, they want, applause. And you don't get that in winter, because winter is
Mhm.
just about you and yourself. You and yourself, and the
Exactly.
plans you're making, and the rest you're getting, and how you're restoring for the next cycle.
Mhm. I like your idea of this purposecaping, and and including the seasons, because it does make sense.
Hmm.
You plant in the spring, and then it grows in the summer, and you reap in the fall, and then
Hmm.
you reassess in the winter. I like that. I hope you have a whole chapter on that on that in
Chapter
the,
8.
in the book. Oh, okay.
Chapter 8's the longest chapter in the book.
Oh, okay, because I jumped over to chapter 9 when I was
Hmm.
running
When
through
you
it.
should have been reading chapter 8,
Yes,
because
yeah,
that's the
but
chapter.
don't worry, I have set aside I have set aside time to go through the book page by page, because I think it's a resource that we all need.
Mm.
No kidding. And whether we are professionals or entrepreneurs, it has some good tips in there that can help us. Okay, so this question is about business.
Okay.
Shifting from business to impact. Many professionals equate business with productivity. How can they shift their focus from being busy to making a real impact in their careers? And I know this is so common, busy. How are you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. Right. But how can we shift the focus from being busy to making a real impact?
It's funny in that, just in you saying I'm so busy, it just made me think of something else. Number one, I think if you're going to shift the focus from being busy, you have to actually want to shift the focus from being busy. I think a lot of people see busyness as like a badge of honor, and they see it as a way to seem and feel important. But there are also people that I think use busyness as a way to avoid themselves. And that's the piece that, like, is harder
Mhm.
because it is not just about achieving or feeling like you're doing enough. Like, it's different. It's literally a tool, a mechanism to avoid, you know so the person who is addicted to being busy and sees being busy as a badge of honor will probably look at me when I say 5 minutes of breath work, or 20 minutes of journaling,
Mhm.
or a 20-minute solo walk in nature, like, ew. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be with myself. I think some people really do have a hard time getting still with themselves, being with their own thoughts, facing themselves. It's not always easy, especially if you
Mhm.
haven't done it in a really long time and there's a lot there that is unresolved. It's just like any other relationship, right?
Right.
You neglect yourself, like, think of any other relationship that you neglect. It's there are going to be repercussions. But in terms of shifting impact, I have maybe a slightly counterintuitive thought about that. I think obviously, if you stop and say, okay, I don't really want to just be busy all the time, I do want to make an impact. What part of my work and my being so busy is contributing the most to the
Mm-hmm.
impact that I'm trying to make? Like, am I on track, to make the impact that I'm trying to make? Is this all of this busyness actually helping me get to my goal? Or am I just kind of spinning my wheels? But
Right.
also, I think it's important for you to understand the impact that your impact is making on you. Like, yes, make a great impact in your industry, in the world, go down in history, do all of the things, but also this is your life and your journey and your career. So, how is what you are spending your time on each day? How is that impacting your quality of life? How is that impacting, how you feel day to day? Are you energized by the work that you're doing? I think we don't talk enough about the impact of our careers on ourselves, on our
Yes.
health, on like how is this all impacting me, my family, my goals, and who I am experiencing, or what my experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
And so if just being busy isn't helping you get to the bigger goal of your career, and it's not really serving you, it's not bringing you joy, it's not energizing you in any way, then it's time to assess or reassess, like, what is the point of the
Yes.
busyness?
Mm-hmm. Now, could busyness be a sign of procrastination? I'm just asking. I'm not. That.
I mean, it
Yeah.
could be definitely procrastinating on facing yourself.
Yes.
I definitely
Exactly.
see that. Or
Or doing.
procrastinating on the important work, the things that would really move the needle, because you're just, doing a lot. You're making a lot.
Right.
You're moving a lot of stuff, but like,
Yes. Exactly. I just thought,
hmm
because sometimes we act busy because we don't really want to face, like, some of the stuff that we really need to get
I
done.
think it's that too, and I think it's like sometimes busyness is a cover for I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing, so let me look busy.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
they don't come, looking at me, asking me too many questions. I'm
Right.
doing something. And, sometimes busyness is a shield for I don't know, right? Like, instead of me saying, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, or I don't know how to do this, let me just look so busy so that, like,
Hmm.
that energy is picked up on, and not my incompetence in
Yes,
this
exactly.
moment.
Yeah.
And so I think, to your point of setting boundaries, et cetera, and I write about this in the book as well, it's like, one of the ways that we can find rest in our careers is by building community, restoring our connections. I wrote about a woman who used to think how that she had to do everything alone, and she realized that that's not how leaders move. Leaders build teams, and they delegate, and they ask for help, and
Hmm.
no one can know everything, no one can know how to do everything. And I think once you realize that, and you start to lean on people and ask for help and ask questions to get your needs met and to move forward, you'll feel a lot more supported, and the weight of what you're holding won't be as heavy
Hmm.
when you can share it with people. And so I think, obviously you've got to discern who is trustworthy and all of that. But I think that's another big missing piece for a lot of us in our careers, is that we're trying to build these careers in isolation. And we're
Yes.
trying to do our work and our jobs in isolation, when the best things get done in team, in collaboration, and in community. And we're social beings. We need support.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm glad you added that point for sure. And so, my final question for you, final piece of advice. If you could leave our audience with one key takeaway about creating a sustainable, fulfilling career,
Hmm.
what would it be?
Ooh, the pressure. um, I think it's kind of a mashup of a lot of the things I've said before, like becoming a student of yourself. That's really the key to all of this, because when you understand what energizes you, what work energizes you, what environments energize you, what style of visibility energizes you, you can kind of create this tailored prescription for yourself and your life that fits you, because everybody's different. Every single person responds to things differently. They're drained by different things, they're triggered by different things. And so I think doing the work of, and I don't even want to call it work. It's like, so what a pleasure and an honor is it to get to
Yes.
know yourself and know what you need and understand your boundaries, your limits, your triggers, what's easy for you but hard for others, what's hard for you but easy for others. So that's where you need to be asking for help. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I would say just really becoming a student of yourself and leaning especially into where you derive energy and joy from your work. Because again, I think a lot of times we think that, I can't do this because this comes so easy to me, or it's fun, or it feels too good to be work.
Yes.
Um, but what we don't realize is that for someone else, it's difficult or it's
Mm-hmm.
not enjoyable. And so we really do owe it both to ourselves and to the world to lean into the things that are fueling to us, that are energizing and are easy for us,
Yes,
because those are the things that we're meant to be doing.
exactly. Wow. Great words of advice to end this interview. Now, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how do they do that? And where can they get your book?
Mm. Well, I think most people may be seeing this on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, Amanda Miller
Good.
Littlejohn. So send me a friend request and say you saw me here,
Mhm.
and we can start a conversation.
Absolutely.
I also have a website, just my name, amandamillerlittlejohn.com, which you can reach me through. And then my book is available pretty much everywhere online that books are sold. So, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Bookshop, Books a Million. And the website for the book is therestrevolutionbook.com if you just kind of want to go there, learn more about it, pick a retailer. But if you just Google the Rest Revolution, it's out there. And we also have an audiobook, so that's exciting.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
excellent. Yes.
Now, I wasn't the narrator, unfortunately, but
That's all
still,
right.
it's out there.
It's out there. It's out there for sure. So people can get that.
Yep.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for this expansive interview. It's as if you have taken so much from the book to it, in little nuggets that all of us could benefit. All of us can benefit from some of your wisdom that you have shared here today. And I promise you, I am going to be let me
Reading
just
chapter 8.
I am just no, I'm going to be reading all the chapters. Like I said, in preparation for the interview, I had to kind of jump through pieces. But especially now that you have explained so much more of what's in the book, and we do need that. We need to take time for ourselves. We need to take that 5 minute just to be by ourselves, so we can listen and we can kind of, because that's how we get ideas. I get
Yep.
ideas when I walk, when it's quiet and so on. So thank you, thank you so
Thank
much,
you
and
for
we'll
having
be
me.
in touch. It has
Yes.
it has really been a pleasure. And for those who supported us today, Janine Lee, thank you so much for
Hey,
sticking
Janine.
for sticking with us. It's going to be a podcast as well. So when that's ready, I'm going to be posting it again. And again, thank you so much for your words of wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank
Okay,
you.
good. Bye bye.
Bye.